back in the main activity, let's write a little bit of code and take a look at some helpful shortcuts that can make you a little more efficient as an Android developer. So one thing you'll notice, we just added a button, and if I start typing the button, give it a really creative name, you can see that the autocomplete feature in IntelliJ is really fast and really smart. So as I'm typing method names, you can see if I just hit enter, I can populate. Same thing with the IDs here. I got the button ID. And there's the autocomplete is one of my favorite things. You can make tweaks to the Eclipse autocomplete features. It's called Content Assist in Eclipse. And I've gotten comfortable with that, so I can work efficiently within there. But this is a little more seamless, and this is, to me, a little more like using Xcode for iOS development, which is an editor that has great autocompletion and some other features that are really like make it a pleasure to use. So that's kind of how I feel Android Studio is, and I feel like it's only getting better with each release. It becomes more stable and improves on all of those things. For this button, I'm just going to add a button on-click listener because I want to show a few things about refactoring and some other shortcuts. So if I set the on-click listener and type new on-click listener and hit enter, you can see it just quickly generates all the code we need. And here I'm going to add a toast. Main activity, this, pass in the context, we'll say hi, and we'll show it length long, and call show. So you can see also that it was just automatically pulling in. We added this toast class, and the organize imports automatically pulled it in. Same thing with the button, so that's a nice feature. So let's take a look at another resource file. So there are a few keyboard shortcuts that allow you to navigate between the files in your project, between classes, between resource files. And rather than having to go over and navigate and drill down in the project pane, if you hit Command plus Shift plus O, you can browse to different files. And on Windows, that keyboard shortcut is Control plus Shift plus N. So this finds a file. If I want to look for the strings file, for example, I just start typing it and hit enter, and it's going to open the strings, and I can see all my string resources. Now if I want to go back to the class, I can hit Command plus O, or on Windows, that's Control plus N, and that goes to a specific class, but it's limited to classes. So here I can look for my main activity class and go right back to it, this is very helpful if you have a lot of classes and you want to bounce between activities or maybe some model classes or other things you have in your app. But the class is filtered by classes. That's why Command plus N is for classes, Command plus Shift plus N is for classes and everything else. So that Shift key gets you the broader file search. Okay, now the next thing I want to look at is one of the common things I do in Eclipse or in Android development is renaming variables, and there's a refactoring tool to do it. But here in Android Studio, you can press Shift plus F6, and that's the same on both Windows and Mac. And it does a refactor rename, so I'm going to call this cool button instead. And you can see that the refactoring is done inline. You can see the preview down below. The name was changing as well. So I hit enter to accept it, and the refactoring is done. Now the next thing I want to show you is, this is one of my favorite features of Android Studio. It's a little thing, but it makes a big difference for me. It just makes me happier as an Android developer. I don't know why, but going from Eclipse and creating string resources and going back and forth, I just haven't gotten into a good workflow with how to do that. But here in Android Studio, you just go to any string, whether it's a hard-coded string like this, and if you're in the string, you hit Alt plus Enter, and you get this quick fix pop-up. And this first choice here is to extract a string resource. So I'm going to hit Enter for that. I give it a name. This is our button. This is our toast message. That's right, toast message. You can see it's going to create it in strings.xml. If we had different versions, we could check additional ones in here. Press OK, and now all of a sudden, that hard-coded string was replaced with a string resource. And again, this is really important for Android development. The pattern is to use all your string values in the string resource file because it gives you one place to define the strings, so you only have to change it in one place. And it also, if you have multiple string resource files, you can do localization for different languages. So you can have an English file, you can have a French file, you can have whatever language you want. But the same thing works if you give that, let me delete this and give it my own ID that doesn't exist. So let's say r.string.specialText. That doesn't exist yet either, so I can hit Alt plus Enter again and create the string value resource, in this case, you just need to type the value. I'll say hello there, and click OK. And now that is in the string resource file as well. So we can use that keyboard shortcut, Command plus Shift plus O, to open the strings file name. And here are the 2 string resources that we just created. All right, let's add a class. I'm going to right-click here on the package and do a new Java class. I'm just going to call this Treehouse with 3 E's? No, 2 E's. Click OK. And if I go back to main activity, and I'm just going to create a new one, temp equals new Treehouse, blah, blah, blah. There's another shortcut that is helpful. If you want to go to a class definition file and look at the methods or look at something that's implemented in there, you just hit Command plus B, and on the Mac that opens up the class file, and on Windows that shortcut is Control plus B. And then I can do it again, Command plus O to go back to my main activity, or that's Control plus N on Windows. And then there are the 2 other shortcuts I want to mention, although I'm not going to run anything right now, but to run your app, it's just Control plus R, and to run it in debug mode, it's Control plus D. On Windows, running it is Shift plus F10, and running it in debug mode is Shift plus F9.